Welcome. Welcome to the Homeschool Mama Self-Care Podcast, unique just to YouTube. So if you're joining me, my name is Teresa Wiedrich. I am the certified life coach and homeschool mentor found here at my YouTube channel and also on my website, www.capturingthecharmedlife.com. So my intention is to hang out with you and a cup of tea and enjoy the beginning of the week before your week gets started. So my goal today is to bring to you the 23 strategies that helps tame the stress dragon for homeschool moms. And the reason that I decided that this would be the week to have that conversation is because I am having conversations with various homeschool moms, homeschool families around the world who are having stress. Lots going on, overwhelm, frustration, stress, whatever you want to call it. It's typically the season to be overwhelmed and to be stressed. This has been my experience in my homeschool years. I am a mom of 4 kids. I homeschooled my 4 kids for a decade and a half. My youngest is still at home, but my 3 older girls are not. And so this has been in my memory of every year that I homeschooled, probably around the season is, I would call it the season of overwhelm, because they're all the plans that we wanted to put into practice. We decided we're going to do them and we're going to do them now. Like, we're going to do it perfectly and it's going to be like completed every day. We're going to create this beautiful routine and we've purchased all these things and we're really excited, optimistic about putting it into practice. And then about now, we start to realize maybe it's not all going to happen the way we thought it was going to be. It's not nearly streamlined as we like to think it could have been or should have been, or maybe there's something we could exclude or include, or we could do differently, or maybe we're bored of something. You fill in the blank. So many possible reasons why it might not be happening exactly as you expected it to. But this specific year, and there have been years in the past, not very long ago, that have been more stressful. This specific year has been more stressful for many, for reasons you're probably familiar with. And we all experience stress in different forms. We have different experiences in our lives. Different things matter to us. But I've learned many people's stories over the last number of weeks, months. There's stories of, challenges with income, not having the same kind of income that people have had. Recently, I was in my Facebook group. There is a mom who's part of the Homeschool Mama support group who was in a home lockdown over the last week. And her community, there was a shooting, a public shooting. And so she and her family were in a lockdown. There is a mom that came into our support group who has only decided to go into homeschooling because her daughter was being bullied at school. And that compelled her to consider homeschooling. When she reached out to get help with the school, she didn't get what she needed. I'll specifically quote her, won't name her, but I'll quote her. She gave me permission to share this. She said, "I just started with a homeschooling program for my daughter. The public school she was attending wasn't capable of providing a safe learning environment for her, as they allowed a kid who threatened to shoot up her school come back with zero consequences. The boy has bullied my kid since the beginning, and the principal refused to do anything. It has been stressful." I bet. I bet it has. I can imagine. And she has been homeschooling now for a few weeks, though that challenge is still not resolved. That's a possible reason. I think you're familiar with all sorts of world issues or challenges that are happening right now. Watching that, being friends with people, because our world is so small, being friends with people that are dealing with horrendous violence and being exposed to everything, whether it's on social media or in the news, all of this is a lot. And so I thought that today would be the right time for me to engage a discussion on how to deal with stress. For me, in moments of stress that I'm experiencing, a big whirlwind of emotions like stress, overwhelm, or frustration, I've learned to look into my mirror and speak to myself. I've discovered that there is a distressed, anxious, frustrated human being on the other side of the mirror, and it would be me. I think it's a valuable tool to approach me on the other side of the mirror because when we get into our heads and we can be maybe angry, sad, frustrated, flustered, overwhelmed, whatever our feelings are, we have a hard time not recognizing that we are a human being experiencing this thing, and we can give ourselves compassion when we're taking a look in the mirror. We can see that we are someone who has needs when we are seeing ourselves apart from being within here and just sticking in the head and thinking about how to navigate things and just drumming up more anxiety as we continue to think through things. And I know that I'm not alone. I am having conversations in my life coaching realm. I've had conversations my entire life with people because my natural tendency has been to really listen deeply to people. And I've heard many people's stories. I've had my own. And I've learned that when we get into our heads like that, it is hard for us to come out of our heads and deal with the challenge at hand or determine how we're going to approach our anxiety, frustration, or stress. It's hard to deny the intensity of your experience when you're staring at the distressed person in the mirror. I know that I see my blue-gray eyes and my well-worn 50-year-old, almost 50-year-old creases in the mirror, and I can't pretend that I'm not stressed because I see it as I'm looking at her. I can't pretend. Sometimes I think that we want to not speak our frustrations and our stresses and our overwhelm to other people because we would like to just put on this everything is going to be okay face, or we want to help other people, or we think, well, it's not as bad as such and such story. And this isn't useful for us because that means when we're not really acknowledging what our challenges are, what our stresses are, it means that we are kind of living a double life. We're living the life that says, I want to be what I think I'm supposed to be, not stressed, not frustrated, not overwhelmed, helpful for other people, appreciative for what I have, despite the stress that I do actually have. So when I'm accepting my authentic humanness and embracing whatever is really going on in here, the storms that occasionally arise, then I can begin to actually address the stress and the anxiety and the overwhelm. So my intention here is to offer you strategies that will help you both recognize when you're having moments of anxiety or stress or overwhelm, and also learn how to deal with those things. If you are someone that has been carrying a lot in the last little while, you're welcome to connect with me in a coaching conversation. This is what I do is I engage other people in the homeschool space to shed what's not working so they can show up authentically, purposefully, and confidently in their homeschool and in their life. Typically, you can find this podcast in my Studio C, my closet, on Monday mornings. This is where I typically record, but I decided to take it to YouTube Live, see what happens. So if this is the first time you've met me, I'd love to hear who you are, who you're homeschooling, share who you are, what your experiences are of stress, overwhelm, and frustration in the comment section below. You can also find me on Apple and Spotify. Okay, so before we get started, whether I'm podcasting in Studio C or in my retired homeschool room, I want to ask you a few questions to help you assess where you're at. So you can grab your journal and a pen, or I can just go slow. You can pause and consider what your answer is. But there's something rather powerful about putting your pen to paper to clarify what's really going on up here. So the 4 questions to ask yourself to assess your level of stress in your life and also your ability to implement useful strategies are these. Question number 1. How often do you make time to address homeschool stress or to help you feel better or do wellness strategies to to assess where you're at? Question 2. Do you find it manageable to set realistic expectations for your homeschool life, for your mom life, when you're having an especially challenging day or when you're in an especially stressful season? Question 3. What's your current approach to time management, and how does it help you reduce your feelings of overwhelm? I have a very special story around this that you may or may not have heard. Question 4. How do you maintain a positive mindset and cultivate hope, even in challenging situations? I would love to hear your response. If you would put that in the comment section below, I will definitely engage that. Okay, so let's talk about the 23 strategies that you can use to tame the homeschool stress dragon. You won't be surprised, since I've written the book Homeschool Mama Self-Care, Nurturing the Nurturer, that I encourage you to prioritize your self-care or your wellness strategies. Because over the course of time, it is very much like you heading to the gas station to gas up your car a little bit every week. A cliche example of self-care, but accurate. So set aside time every week, even if it's just a few minutes a day. Set aside time to engage in activities that are refueling, whether it's reading or asking someone to look after the kids so you can go outside and go for a run. Maybe you want to implement breathing exercises or practicing yoga or just simply walking the dog. Something simple, but something intended for you to get away. I've learned that being present or assuming that you need to be present as a homeschool mom 24/7 doesn't really serve you, and it doesn't really serve your kids like you think it should, because you are not fueled to be present. And if you don't feel present with your kids, you're not really with them. They know that. They're not getting solid eyeball to eyeball time, I call it. And so it's not really serving them anyways, but it definitely is expending your energy. The second thing is to set realistic expectations, or at least try. So first of all, you're going to have to clarify what are those unrealistic expectations. It is challenging to actually get clear on what even that might be. What do you think your unrealistic expectations might be? I'd like to hear in the comment section. And by the way, I think whatever your first instinct is, it's probably right. So recognize that there will be good days, there will be bad days, there will be days that feel like on point. That was the homeschool day I signed up for. And there will be days where you're like, that was definitely not a homeschool day I signed up for. You're going to have both. It's okay to adjust your plans as needed. You have permission. You're not always going to have a clean kitchen. I can tell you that from 25 years of homeschool family life, or from family life. And I know you won't, because I still don't, and I only have one kiddo at home, and I'm pretty sure that's not going to magically change when he leaves. Perfection isn't your goal. So how do you set realistic expectations? The third thing is to expect positive things, cultivating a mindset of possibility. Even if there are tough situations in your life, continue to look for the good. People like to help people. This is possibility. This is positivity. That is hope to me. Some people are willing to get curious and listen and learn about others' experiences. Some people are willing to go out of their way to speak truth, to do kindness, and be a support. So look for the helpers. And consider that what you're learning today, whatever the challenge is, might benefit you tomorrow. And I know this from my personal life experience too. When in the moment, it does not feel like that. In fact, it feels pretty cruel and harsh. A cruel summer, a cruel season. Nonetheless, I've learned over the course of time that biblical adage, beauty for ashes, it can be so. The fourth thing that I can offer you is to consider how you are engaging your time. Creating a structure or a routine, whichever you prefer as a word, because I know in the homeschool community, we've kind of thrown out the word structure and said that that's a bad word, but I don't care what it is, whatever serves you. If it's a structure or a routine, if it works for you and it includes all the things you want to do in your life as a homeschool mom, then it's beautiful. Mwah! It's exactly what you want. But make sure you include margins for breaks and downtime and rest. I learned the hard way. This is one of the challenging areas that I've had over the course of my family life. My family knows it, that efficient time management isn't my thing. My tendency is to try to pack in way too much. And I was unaware that you really do not have all the time in the world to do everything. And you cannot make sure to do the entire to-do list if you simply do not have that much time in a day. So we have to decide what we actually want to do in our day, how much time it really takes, create margins around those things, and put everything on a to-do list because probably, maybe, there's tomorrow. So consider how you're managing your time. The fifth thing you can do if you're stressed or overwhelmed is to reach out for support. You don't have to do what you're doing alone. I know as a mother, our natural penchant is to do stuff alone. I can do it. I can do it better sometimes. I don't need other people's help, but I like helping other people. So the thing is, sometimes we really do need help, especially in the bigger seasons when the significant things are happening. And I know an online support group that you can join. I offer one in the Patreon community, and it pretty much guarantees that you have access to me on a daily basis. And also, there is the free Facebook group, the Homeschool Mama Support Group. This can be a valuable resource for you because we're not talking about just what curriculum choices should I use or has anybody used this and those things are useful, those conversations are useful, but I'm talking about real challenges that you're having maybe in your marriage, or maybe you're having challenges with in-laws and how they're engaging or not supporting you in your homeschool choice, or maybe you fill in the blank, but I like to talk real stuff to help people, homeschool parents, shed what's not working so they can show up authentically. But sometimes we need a therapist or a life coach to help give us guidance and direction, strategies for managing stress and anxiety. So if you want to have a conversation with me, I'm a certified life coach. I can send, or you can just send me a message, share something in the comment section that you would like perhaps to consider coaching, and I can give you a link to connect with me via Zoom. We can talk more about coaching, or you're also welcome to join me in the Patreon Homeschool Mama Support Group. Every Friday, we're going to discuss all the things, all the really big, important things. The sixth stress strategy I would like to share with you is to delegate tasks. Along with looking for support, we don't like delegating tasks because sometimes, and it's true, it's easier to do it ourselves. Because we do that because it's true. Sometimes it is easier to do it ourselves. But sometimes we need to get into the practice of assuming that other people are helping us, like our children's other parent, or perhaps a willing mother or father or cousin or in-law or a friend down the street. When we delegate things to other people that are willing to participate, maybe an older kid even, then we do release a few pressures that we don't need to be holding on to. And if you're like me and your tendency is to not delegate tasks, but to do them all yourself, and you frustrate yourself because of that, well, I'm saying you don't have to. You can let go of a few tasks, or you can delegate it to someone else and let it be not like you would do. Learning to say no is rather important. That would be the seventh strategy. Avoid overcommitting to extracurricular activities. It's cheaper that way. Also, nobody, not your kids and not you, will be happier with an overfilled homeschool life. Less is always more in a homeschool mom's life. Consider the eighth strategy, mindfulness and relaxation techniques. Practicing mindfulness techniques, meditation, or deep breathing exercises really does slow our bodies down and help us to feel more present, at peace, because you are stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system, which is like gently putting your foot on the brake in your car. You are slowing things down. So, how can you do that? You can practice breathing techniques. I have a variety of them in a playlist here, which I will make sure is down below, but you can check it out in my YouTube channel. I purposely have meditation, mindfulness, and deep breathing exercises in a specific playlist because I've used them many times, and I know from experience that they're highly effective. And lovely to see now that there is double-blind randomized controlled trials that prove that they really do benefit our brains. So practice mindfulness techniques. Burn off homeschool stress with physical activity. When once I saw exercise as just an approach to try to maintain body image, I now know it actually helps me, and especially in the homeschool mom role, when you've had a busy day all day long, you just need to go jump on the trampoline for 10 minutes, or you need to dance to a dance playlist, or you need to, you fill in the blank, do something, but get your heart rate up, burn off some tension, and turn up the endorphins in your body. It just feels good. The 10th thing you can do is to use educational resources online. If you already haven't figured this out, which you probably have, but I just want to throw it out there and say there are so many amazing online resources, ones that you can pay for, ones that you don't have to. And, Khan Academy is one. I'm sure you've heard of it. I mean, really, if you haven't heard of it, I want to hear, okay? But Khan Academy, or I know there's, maybe I won't name all the math programs, but there are so many math programs. There are so many beautiful programs available online now. And it's a way for you to not have to do everything. If you are offering your kids different content or educational resources and you want to do more formal academics, you don't have to do all of them with you and a lesson plan and a child. You can outsource things online. 11th thing is definitely plan for breaks. Assume that you're going to have breaks. We always did a 100-day party. So on the 100th day, we would have a party. Or around Christmas, there would be more unit studies or something more play-filled. Not for the first 3 or 4 years. I was solidly trying to be very studious with a very classical homeschool in the first few years. But then not long after, we would incorporate those holiday kind of celebrations into whatever we were doing for unit studies. And that also goes for pretty much every holiday and birthday. It also makes sure to include, sometimes that there's like heavier things going on and you just need some days of margin around that. Take them off. If you're already making sure to have a typical routine, you don't need to feel like every single day is something that requires you to sit down at a homeschool table or a kitchen table and do sit down work. Frankly, it'll probably serve you to recognize, and I know it did me, to really look at my kids and say, are my kids learning despite that I'm not giving them some sort of lesson plan, or I'm not giving them some sort of formal learning curriculum? And over the course of time, I too became convinced it wasn't a requirement. That's why it's really useful to have a consistent routine. So then when you have those days blow up or those weeks blow up, then you go, it's okay. We did a lot. We've done a lot. We're fine. The 12th thing that I would encourage you to consider is to celebrate the small wins. So when you have that 100-day party or when you have some significant event in your family, celebrate it. Stop and celebrate. Positive reinforcement for you and for your kids. The 13th thing that you can do if you are experiencing stress, especially in a specific area on repeat, is to write down your thoughts and your feelings. I would suggest to you, as a journaler who has journaled since she was 7, that I think there's something almost magical about it, or at least something kind of magical, because it helps to get us to get whatever is up in our heads on paper, and we can look at it more objectively. I've designed resources specifically for homeschool moms that are challenged by boundary issues. that, homeschool moms that want to deschool their homeschool. If you're grappling with overwhelm, I have a journaling workbook for that. And also if you have big emotions and you don't have a plan to address them. And I also offer a Homeschool Mama daily journal. These all can be resources for you to track your habits, how you are experiencing stress and how you're also manifesting it in your homeschool with your kids. So then you can keep track of how you're engaging it, learn more about why you're engaging as you're engaging, so you can choose on purpose the way you want to approach things. The 14th thing that I would share with you is to practice flexibility. By far, the greatest challenge I have. I think homeschooling allows for flexibility, but people don't necessarily choose it. If you have the freedom, choose it. Enjoy your kids while you've got them, said a mother who's launched 3 of her 4 kids. So I know that some days you're like, can you just take my kids for a few days so I can pretend to myself that I've launched them? I know, I get it. I remember, and also it really will happen soon. So enjoy your kids while you've got them. 15th thing that I would share with you is to schedule deep breathing breaks. So on your device, on your phone, on whatever device you have, maybe in a good old fashioned alarm clock, set an alarm that dings and tells you to stop and take maybe 2 or 3 calming breaths to check in with yourself and ask yourself, how are you feeling? What's going on? I think 11 o'clock every day is the perfect time. So that is when my phone dings. But I know for a season in my earlier homeschool years, the arsenic hour was also the perfect time. That hour right around dinner, when you're trying to get everything put together for dinner and the kids are all wanting snacks and they're starting to get, at each other a bit, that hour. It might be useful for you to set an alarm at that point for you to practice checking in with yourself, and maybe they'll check in with themselves as well. The 16th